Before I begin the video, I just want to take a quick moment to say that I've always tried to be incredibly careful when I make these videos. These topics can be difficult to discuss, and it's really easy to upset people without even meaning to do so. I can't tell you how many videos I put on private or just never published because I questioned some aspect of that video. Which is why I've opened this channel to memberships where members would have access to all of those videos, numerous exclusive videos made just for channel members, along with early access and sneak peeks to my upcoming videos. However, if memberships aren't for you, you can always support this channel by leaving a tip in the tip jar by clicking on the thanks option, or just hitting the like button because it really does go a long way to help. I appreciate each and every one of you, so with that being said, grab a cup of coffee and let's get into the video, shall we? In the ancient city of Akragas, there lived an inventor and artist named Perilos, who, while very talented, was also a touch macabre. You see, Perilos had a bit of a knack for creating devices with the sole purpose of torturing and killing people in some of the most horrific ways imaginable. But none of Perilos' inventions could even compare to his ultimate masterpiece and possibly one of the most horrific ways to execute someone ever invented, which, after he created it, he named it the Brazen Bull. The device itself was made out of brass and designed to look like a bull. It was completely hollow on the inside with a door on the side of the bull that would allow access to the inside. Once inside, there was a long metal tube that extended up through the head of the bull and could be used by someone inside of it to breathe through the bull's actual nostrils. But this wasn't any normal tube. It was designed with loops, which would function almost like a rudimentary trumpet. I'm sure you can see where this is going, but basically the condemned would be shoved through the open door of the bull, and the door would be locked behind them. At which point, a fire would be built underneath the bull, roasting the person inside to death. And since brass is an excellent conductor of heat, basically every inch of the bull would scald the person inside, cooking them alive.
The year 570 BC. Greek city-states experience incredible growth under the iron fist of local strongmen called tyranni. These tyrants advance their cities with new technology, but they're also known for their cruelty. Here on the island of Sicily, one of history's first machines of malice goes on record: the Brazen Bull. The concept of the bronze bull is simple, but the execution is downright diabolical. This deadly device doubles as a musical instrument.
What's interesting about this is that it follows along a certain kind of fascination people have with technology in making an inanimate object seem animate.
To the ancient Greeks, bulls were a symbol of absolute power. This is why bulls like the Minotaur are so prevalent in mythology. Some early Greeks believed in a bull-headed god called Moloch, who demanded human sacrifice.
So, Moloch was apparently an ancient god that, and I'm not making this up, people would sacrifice their babies to. It's honestly beyond belief that something like that actually happened, but it did, and it's even referenced numerous times in the Bible.
The Brazen Bull could be a tribute to earlier bull worship and human sacrifice. Here's how it works. A hinged trap door opens up the bull's back. This reveals a hollow chamber where victims are locked inside. Flames from a fire pit beneath then lick the belly of the beast.
Instinctually, if you're locked into any sort of dark space and you're trapped, you know you're not going to get out. Panic is going to set in, you're going to have an acute stress response, tachycardia, your heart rate is going to increase, you're going to have increased respiratory response, breathe much faster. Essentially, you're going to start panicking, especially when that bull starts heating up.
So basically, the Brazen Bull is an oven built to cook humans.
And to make things even more terrifying, the fire and steam would limit the amount of oxygen inside of the bull, forcing its victims to breathe and scream through the trumpet pipe, which would create a roaring sound that would come from the bull's nostrils.
Because the metal acts as a sound barrier. Sound waves can't travel through material as dense as metal. However, if the fire superheats the air inside the Brazen Bull, a victim might struggle to reach the tube built inside the bull's head. The victim could siphon fresh air out of the tube and then exhale while screaming.
I would imagine inside the bronze bull, if there was only one spot for him to breathe in as he's screaming back out again, it must have sounded something like this.
You see, Perlos had created this absolute nightmare to impress the ruling tyrant at the time named, and I'm probably going to butcher this, Valaris. This particular tyrant loved to torture and execute basically anyone he saw as a problem and was an all-around pretty bad guy. Don't get me wrong, Perlos was a monster too, but he didn't have the power Valaris did, and he wanted to impress him. And in a rather horrifying but fitting twist of irony, stories allege that after finishing construction on the execution device, Perlos said to Valaris, "His screams will come to you through the pipes as the tenderest, most pathetic, most melodious of bellowings." At which point Valaris ordered its horn sound system to be tested by none other than Perlos himself, and after tricking him into getting into the bull, they locked the door and set a fire underneath it.
Ancient texts describe how the tyrant Valaris wanted to test the bull's musical properties. So he commanded the artist who built the bull to climb inside and scream like someone being burned. But in a moment of fiendish trickery, the tyrant locked the trapdoor and lit the fire beneath. The machine worked as promised. The artist was the Brazen Bull's first victim.
And apparently the sound system worked exactly as Perlos said it would. But before he could die, Valaris opened the door and had him removed from the bull. Valaris is then said to have taken Perlos to the top of a cliff where he killed him by throwing him off it. And Valaris, being the lovely guy that I just explained to you, went on to use the bull so often that it's believed that he became the inspiration for the Mad King in the Game of Thrones series.
Must be strange for you, coming into this room. I'm standing right here when it happened. It was very brave, your brother, and your father too. He didn't deserve to die like that. Nobody deserves to die like that.
You just stood there and watched.
500 men just stood there and watched. All the great knights of the Seven Kingdoms. You think anyone said a word, lifted a finger? No one stopped. 500 men, and this room was silent as a crypt. Except for the screams, of course. And the Mad King laughing. And later, when I watched the Mad King die, I remembered him laughing as your father burned. It felt like justice.
When the person is placed inside this brazen bull, it's just like cooking a turkey in your oven. You burn the outside of the skin and you slowly dehydrate the inside, and if you leave them in there long enough, it'll eventually become very tough and very dry. The heat itself would slowly cook you from the inside out.
The extreme heat engulfing the victim would make for a short musical performance before heat exhaustion knocked him out. One can only speculate how quickly the Brazen Bull would then finish him off. Based on the extreme dehydration trauma, the survival window is under 10 minutes.
It's said that he would order that incense be piled in the fire underneath the bull to help mask the smell of burning flesh, and Valaris would have huge parties with food and alcohol, so everyone in attendance could watch the show and listen to the musical screams of the Brazen Bull's numerous executions.
For 16 years, the tyrant condemned anyone who challenged his power to cook inside the Brazen Bull.
Tradition, of course, has it that Valaris enjoyed this device so much that he would use it during banquets, inviting people over, listening to the bull roar, and also masking the scent of the roasting flesh by adding aromatic herbs so there was more of an effective incense in the air than of burning human flesh.
Ancient texts state the cruel Brazen Bull was tossed into the ocean immediately after Valaris was tossed from his throne in 554 BC.
And ironically, much like the Mad King in Game of Thrones, when Valaris was eventually overthrown, you guessed it, he was executed inside of the bull, one of the cruelest execution methods ever created. And, well, that's it for this video. Do you happen to know of a form of execution that you'd like to see me talk about on this channel that you think is worse than the Brazen Bull? If so, let me know in the comments section below. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching.